So now we're going to move to a entirely different species and move into bison or buffalo as referred to today.
My name is Alexandria Troxell. I work with Old Harper Native Corporation, and we have a bison herd on Sitkalidak Island. We're kind of unique as we're community-owned herds. The Old Harbor Alliance is the entity that owns the herd. The Old Harbor Alliance consists of a board of directors that has 2 seats for Old Harbor Native Corporation. You can either be shareholder or descendant of the corporation to be on that board, or you have to live in the city. There's 2 seats for people that live in Harbor, and then there's 2 seats for people that are tribal members of polluted tribal Old Harbor. And then there's 2 at-large seats. So anyways, it's owned by this entity that is community owned. The Old Harbor Alliance does, in addition to the bison, we have a farm. So we have a farm and we do community projects with kids in the summer. We have camps and do all this fun stuff. So the bison herd is just a little additional thing. We're from Kodiak. We're fish people. You know, we know fish. We don't know anything about farming animals. So we get all these entities to, you know, pitch in and help us and, you know, make our plans and work through. We have representatives, the Alliance, that help us manage and make, you know, our plans for harvesting, Alaska Department of Fish and Game, National Resources Conservation Services, Intertribal Buffalo Council, local ranchers. We ask questions. We're like, how do we do this? You know, and we get help from lots of. I'm not the herd manager. She's in Mexico. So if you guys have questions, I may or may not be able to answer them. We are located on the east side of Kodiak. So Old Harbor, the village is right there. It's on the mainland of Kodiak. And then this is Sitkalidak Island. Sitkalidak Island is 77,000 acres that the Old Harbor Native Corporation owns. Besides, there's 2 small parcels that are owned by outside entities. So the herd history, in 1980, Bill Burton of Narrow Cape purchased 38 bison from Wyoming. He shipped them to Alaska via ferry. And then in 1990, Jim Van Oss of Homer purchased 10 of those and moved them over to Homer. And then in 2000, Charlie Dorman got 50 of those ones and moved them back over to Kodiak. Well, in 2017, the Dorman family a lot of people in Kodiak were hunting them. They were trying to get rid of the herd. And the Harbor Alliance was formed, and we said, hey, let's buy these bison and take them over to our island. So we bought them and shipped them on barges over to Sitkalidak Island. In 2020, the Intertribal Buffalo Council awarded the tribe 3 Yellowstone bison. And then in 2020, we bought another 64 bison from Narrow Cape. Management goals, our goals are to provide meat for our people, basically. Right now, we're doing community, a lot of stuff with community, with meat and whatnot. We want to increase community harvest opportunity. We want to provide for our community for events and programs, and we want to have economic opportunity for people. So herd checks and surveys, we do twice a year aerial surveys with helicopters so in the spring we go just to see, you know, how they fared over the winter. And then in the fall, we want to see how many babies they have and what we have and how they're doing. We've done several capture and coloring projects. In 2020, 10 bison were collared with video tracking devices. In 2021, the Yellowstone bison, we have the 3 Yellowstone, were all collared. And in 2003, 7 bulls and cows were captured and fitted with more radio collars. And in 24, we put video collars on 3 cows. The video collars, those ones are really neat. So they got a camera on the neck of the cows. So when they drop the cows, the cameras come on, or drop the babies, the cameras come on. So we should be getting footage of those babies here soon. I think the collars dropped in August. I haven't seen any videos yet. So this is some of our collar locations. This is like the outside of the island. It's called, we call it Ocean Beach, Ocean Bay, I think. Beautiful, long, white sand beach, but they really like it there. There's lots of kelp to eat. So they kind of hang out on that side of the island. The village would be over here. So kind of stick to the outside of the island. Coloring, it helps us monitor where they're at and a good picture of the kind of range that they have, so they're all over the place. They kind of stick, they don't really go over that. They're killing it out there, they're doing great. So this was Operation Buffalo Wings, because we flew 3 Yellowstone bison on a FedEx plane. Crazy, I know. So we flew them into Anchorage, trucked them down to Homer, and then put them on landing craft, and the landing craft in these modified connexes took them to Sitkalidak Island, and we did that to mix in some genetic diversity. Like I said, from the timeline, it started with 40 animals and over here, and so we wanted to mix in some of that good stuff. So we got those 3 Yellowstone bulls. A little more about our harvesting practices. So our tier 1, these are our cultural hunts. Those are designated for like community potlucks, or we use them to supplement the elder meal program. All summer we do camps with the kids, and so we feed them bison meat, and we bring the kids in, we make bison jerky, and so that's what the tier 1 cultural hunts are for. Me and my family. The tier 2 are the lottery hunts, and so there's a formula. Each year after we do our surveys, we figure out how many bison we have and then harvest safely without doing anything bad to the herd. So we draw between, and they would have to be alliance members, so tribal members, corporation shareholder descendants, or residents. And so last year, we drew 20 tags. And so then you're able to go out there to harvest your animal. And then the tier 3, these are our commercial hunts. Right now, we're doing like very few. We do raffle. So 1 raffle hunt, and then we do like an auction. So we do a live auction, we'll auction off 1 or 2 hunts. And those are just to help cover the costs of operating, doing our helicopter surveys. And so those are very few right now. It's beautiful, green, lush island there. So they are thriving. We do not have to feed them anything. Or the LFPA program was a grant that the tribe received from the USDA to purchase. They purchased meat from the Old Harbor Alliance, and then we hired people in the village to go out and hunt them, process them, and then distributed meat to our tribal members in Old Harbor, Kodiak, and Anchorage. Today, and where we're going, so we're providing healthy food sourced to our members, bison education to the kids. The kids are, when we're processing these animals for our programs, they're coming in, they're watching, they're helping, they're making jerky. And so we have a plant that we built. So the members, when they are able to go out and get their tier 2 bison, they can bring their meat back and they can process it in the plants. We're investigating commercial meat processing, value-added products. Hopefully, eventually we'll have enough animals that we'll be able to, sell some of the meat. Continue improving genetics. We're hoping to get some more of those Yellowstones and to play a key role in our community food security.
What's your goal for your herd size?
We want to keep it like 400 max. Right now, we're about 250, I think. 400, I think, is probably where we're kind of trying to the sweet spot.
Katie Grusner, Intertribal Ag. I have so many questions. I definitely think that we should talk later. But you said that they're out there, they're happy, and you don't have to do anything to feed them.
Yeah.
But you say that they're eating kelp. Are they out there in the ocean like eating kelp? Or
They're on the beach.
Kelp washes up
The
on
kelp
the beach
washes
after
up on
every
the
high
beach.
tide.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so there'll be big rolls of kelp at the high tide.
I don't know anything
on the
about
beach.
bison. Do they need a bunch of sodium to be able to make milk and make babies?
The cattle eat the same. It's just the very
Yeah.
micronutrients that are in there of some sort that they're harvesting out of the kelp.
Are they say they're staying on the north end, they're not the one on the south end?
Mhm. There's kind of a big mountain there. I mean, they could probably find ways over. I've heard that there's been a sighting of 1 bull that's over there close to the village, but they like where they're at. It's rolly, and there's valleys in between, so they can go travel between, and there's lots of spaces for them to get away, and there's not a lot of people over there. There is an old road that crosses the island and they use that a lot and people go there use that, but they're always in there and then they can, you know, they have ways to get away. They get seen like they're happy, they're thriving. Lots of babies.
You mentioned value added products. Are there companion species or animals that bison are like happy to live with that could potentially also move onto the island?
Well, I mean, there's deer, there's bears, there's fish, there's all kinds of stuff over there. I mean, I thought about like another, like a different animal over there, but yeah, sure, why not? There's lots of space.
So it sounds like maybe it was something y'all had thought or talked about.
So I remember when I was a kid, sitting and listening to my dad and him was like, you should put bison on that island. You should put bison on that island because it's, you know, our island basically, and people on it. And so, you know, so they're there, you know, and I remember that. And then I wasn't working with the corporation when we saw them through and just remember thinking, wow, I remember those old timers talking about that when I was a kid and now it's happening. It's just like the perfect spot.
Are the Yellowstone bison from ranchers in the Yellowstone area or from the park?
Not from the park. We got, I can't remember where, let me see, Fort Peck, Montana.
Did you, showing them how long it took from that trip took?
I think it was probably about 36 hours. It was like a day and a half. So they got them on FedEx. So that didn't, you know, or into Anchorage, trucked them down. And in the pictures, you could see it was nighttime. We loaded them on. So it was probably they left in the morning and then I think we released them in the morning next day. So 24 hours.
So you
That was why we wanted them. So when
you would want.
the Yellowstones?
Yeah.
Well, when we had the bison, we did the genetic testing and it's like, we need to mix more, get some stronger genetics in these. So, there's that program that the Intertribal Buffalo Council has where they quarantine them for 3 years and then they gift them to other tribes. And so that's how we got them from them. And then we had to figure out, well, how are we gonna get them there? I believe the corporation paid full transport, but we're working on trying to get someone now. Fort Warren, we have our containers are sitting, they're staged down there in Fort Peck right now. And so we're just trying to figure out how to get them up there now. We have 4 waiting. So we're trying to get an IRT grant, which is the Interness Ready Training Grant through the military.
Follow on that, since they have, they're originally there in the full program now.
It depends on the.
Thought on planning directly in Old Harbor.
We did, so we had, the National Guard picked up our application and they were actually gonna do it a couple of months ago, but they backed down now. They're gonna do it now. But they were gonna fly at C-17 and they said our runway wasn't big enough. So we were gonna fly them into Kodiak, which probably would have been the same anyways, because we would have had to landing craft flying harbor over to the outer side of the island anyways.
Are there tours available?
No, but we're working on it. We've been talking about that. We're thinking about doing like a small tour program where we can take people over to the island and, you know, they have side by sides and photographs and things. Keep following us. That maybe is the future. Yeah.
How much would you pay for a tour?
Right, yeah.
Are there different breeds of bison?
There's genetics. So when we did our genetic testing, our bison had like 10 different genetics. I took the slide out of here, but it was a, pie chart and it had all different genetics, from the different regions and different areas. And ours had very little nose on them. So now hopefully there's some of those bulls running. And I think when we got those 3 bulls, our herd was probably maybe 100 bison and 3 bulls.
These have infrastructure for feeding animals or
No.
or vaccination.
No, we don't do any of that kind of stuff. We're not farmers, so we don't know what we're doing, but we want to put a corral in so it's easier to harvest them. So that's kind of our next project. Find the funding and build a corral system and we need to harvest them, especially if we want to go commercial.
Do you want to talk a bit about the meat packing processing unit that you have in Old?
Yeah, so that's in Old Harbor. It's we have a plant that's got a freezer and a cooler in it. And so we use that during this LFA program. The guys would go out, they would harvest the bison, bring them back into the village and we hang them and harvest them. Or we hang them and process them in the village, which is a little bit of it's kind of a pain. That once we're done with this LFA program, then members that go out and harvest are able to bring their bison.
Is there a big USDA requirement part of that LFD?
LFA, thank you. No, because we're just giving it to the people.
Question from left field, are there any predators out there for these bison other than humans?
I mean, we have bears out there, but they don't seem to be an issue.
That was gonna be my next question, can a bear take on a
Yeah, we
bison?
haven't noticed any. So our herd manager, Melissa, her husband is a bear biologist with Fish and Game. And I was talking with him recently, and he said that, they may not do it now, but bears are like, they'll learn. And so it could be a problem in the future. The bear, you know, it's like, hey, that's tasty. I ate this bison, now I'm gonna go eat another. So it's like a learned behavior. That doesn't start being a problem, but I mean, they're herd animals, so they protect them. They seem pretty hardy, so I'm good. Well, thank you.